Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we'll be playing another quick draft of Ikoria. I have quite been enjoying the return to these drafts this time around in the quick draft format, so I am excited to jump into some more of these. Today we've got a pretty sweet rare. It's a bit of a weird one, a bit of a fun kind of build around. Unpredictable Cyclone, 5 mana for an enchantment, and if you cycle a card, basically, you reveal cards from the top until you reveal another card of the same type, and you cast that one for free. So this makes all of your cycling cards super active. If you draft like a red-green deck, you could cycle some like cheap creature, and then end up getting a big old creature like a Greater Sandworm out of it. And Greater Sandworm actually is the perfect kind of card to go in an unpredictable Cyclone deck because you can cycle it and you can hit it off of the cycling ability if you have multiple copies of it and if you're pretty lucky. So Unpredictable Cyclone, pretty fun card to try to build around. Every color does have cycling cards in this format, although obviously the most powerful color scheme for cycling in general in this format is red-white because they have the most cycling payoffs like Snare Tactician here, as well as their gold uncommon, the Zenith Flare, 4 mana to deal damage to any target equal to the number of cycling cards in your graveyard. That is just a massive, massive payoff. So Unpredictable Cyclone seems like a fun place to start here, and we could really play this in any color pair, although we would have the most cycling payoffs in red-white. Pick 2 here, we do have a Dranith Stinger. This is going to be a high pick for any sort of cycling deck, so definitely a high pick to go with Unpredictable Cyclone here. It cycles for only 1 mana, and it's a creature with cycling, so it could essentially turn into a much larger creature if we're lucky. I do like taking the Dranith Stinger here. We do want to take the 1 mana cyclers pretty highly for a cycling strategy, and I think the next best card would probably be Pacifism because red-white would be where we want to be in a cycling-themed deck. Although Archipelagore is pretty absurd in mutate decks, so that is another great card in this pack. Just going to roll with Dranith Stinger. Keeps us in mono red for now, and it looks like this time around we will be going for that cycling deck with a Zenith Flare pass to us. Pick 3 here, going to be absolutely happy to scoop this up. This is just straight up the best uncommon in the whole set. Red-white cycling is the most powerful strategy if it's open and if you're getting past the cards. And we are already on that path with Unpredictable Cyclone as our rare starting the draft off and Dranith Stinger as the second pick. So very, very little I would take over Zenith Flare here. Maybe even nothing that I would take over Zenith Flare in the whole set as the third pick. So, alright, this is probably going to be a bit more interesting of a pick, because there aren't any cards that cycle for only 1. We have Coordinated Charge, which does cycle for 2. The fact that we have Unpredictable Cyclone, Zenith Flare, and Dranith Stinger, all 3 of our cards so far being pretty decent cycling payoffs at worst and great ones at best, means that we should be taking cycling cards pretty high. I could see taking Coordinated Charge for that reason, even though it cycles for 2 and we're never going to cast this, we're only going to cycle it. We might just be the kind of deck that just wants that much cycling. If we're not taking a cycling card here, the only other cards in our colors being in red-white are both mutate creatures, Porcuparrot and Cloudpiercer, and the way that mutate works requires us to have a non-human creature in our deck, and a lot of the cycling cards and cycling payoffs happen to be humans, so they're not going to work particularly well. I suppose we could take like Cloudpiercer here just because even if we're not mutating this, it is a 5 mana 5/4 reach, which is fine. 4 mana 3/4 that doesn't do anything I think is a bit worse. I think I'm just going to go with the Coordinated Charge here and stick to the theme, although I'm not particularly happy about that one. That's kind of just gotta do what you gotta do. Offspring's Revenge. Let's see. 5 mana at the beginning of combat and ensure and exile a red, white, or black creature from your graveyard. Make a token of it that's a 1/1. If we have a ton of good enter the battlefield effects and a ton of good effects in general, that'll be fine. I guess it does work decently with cycling as well. because if we cycle a bunch of creatures, then we'll have plenty of the things in the graveyard to keep bringing back as 1/1s. You do really want the abilities on your creatures to be quite good for this card, because obviously only being 1/1s, they're not going to be doing much damage. So we need them to have good effects like our Draneth Stinger does. Not a massive fan of Offspring's Revenge here. I also ideally don't want to be playing more than 2 colors if I'm trying to run a pretty focused cycling deck. So I kind of like just a Rogaran Crystal here, because this can tap for red or white, or it can cycle. So those are all things we would want to do. There's also Raking Claws. This can be a big blowout because you can cycle it when you don't need it, and sometimes you could have a cycling creature like Prickly Marmoset that gets extra power every time you cycle a card. So you could get like that up to like 6 power and then just double strike and bam, hit him for 12 in one attack. So Raking Claws can blow people out if you're the Prickly Marmoset kind of cycling deck. And then obviously the Evolving Wild's just mana fixing. Yeah, Crystal or Raking Claws here I think I'm more of a fan of than the Offspring's Revenge. I'm going to go with the Raking Claws here. It's also another instant. Whenever we're cycling instants, we could potentially Unpredictable Cyclone into a Zenith Flare if we're just the luckiest player ever. Now we have a Spell Eater Wolverine. This is going to go pretty well in this deck. It gives us a early creature to cast, and it can be a very, very imposing threat if we trigger the double strike on this. We do have to have 3 instants or sorceries in our graveyard to do that, but we do have multiple cycling instants and sorceries already, 1 Raking Claws and 1 coordinated charge, and we're only 5 picks into the draft, so we can definitely scoop up more, and we are already probably looking to do so. There is also Patasia Tiger, though, which is good in just an aggressive deck with some humans in it. A 5-mana 3/4 flyer that buffs one of your humans +2/+2 till end of turn. Like, this is also a solid card, and we do have one little aggressive human here, the 2-mana 2/2, but I think Spell Eater Wolverine's probably going to just drive a little better with where we're headed. Now, we don't have much. We have Cathartic Reunion to discard 2, draw 3. Does Unpredictable Cyclone only care about cycling? Yeah, if a cycling ability would cause you to draw a card. So there were some cards back in Amonkhet that would care about cycling or discarding cards. So unfortunately, that is not how the cycling mechanics work in this format, so Cathartic Reunion isn't going to trigger any of that sort of stuff here. I guess we can just take like a Majestic Auricorn, 5 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance, so if we're lucky and we get to mutate this onto something, we do gain life when we do it. Not a huge fan of the off-color crystal here, just basically taps for red in our deck or cycles for 2. And the crystals tend to go late, so I think we'll be able to get ones that are red and white, because there is a red, white, and blue one, and there is also a red, white, and black crystal. So what do we have now? We have an aggressive creature in Savai Sabertooth, that's just a 2-mana 3/1 here. Start slapping our opponent. Sonorous Hellbonder, that's 2 red and 1 for our deck, because we won't be playing black ideally. For a menace creature that can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, and if we take more cards with menace, it does get better. Don't expect to have a ton of menace. All I can think of right now that we would have in just red-white would be the Sonorous Hellbonder itself and like a Ferocious Tigerilla. That's a 4-mana 4/3 with menace. So I don't feel like going for the Hellbonder seems insane here, but the other cards in this pack aren't super exciting and they're pretty replaceable. So I'm going to go with the Hellbonder anyway, I think. Just to see if that ends up doing some cool stuff. We got Blossoming Sands, Solid Footing, and Majestic Auricorn here. We could go for like a Humans theme with General's Enforcer, but Zenith Flare, Unpredictable Cyclone, Draneth Stinger, we're just committed to this cycling thing, I think. So, I mean, I guess this doesn't need us to have humans, we just have to be playing black for it. We already have the 1 Auricorn, and it's quite an expensive creature that also wants us to have a lot of non-humans, which could be awkward. So like this could be not a terrible splash, because it gives us a mana sink to use in the late game to keep making little dorks. I don't know, I think I'm still just going to take the Auricorn though. Now we'll take a Perimeter Sergeant. Don't really love the little combat tricks here. All of our non-creature slots are just going to be a million cycling cards. So we'll just get a creature here. Perimeter Sergeant, not likely to be incredible. Don't know how many humans we'll end up with. We already have a little bit of an awkward time here because we're split between humans and non-humans. But here it's going to have to be Imposing Vantasar, the card that cycles for 1 generic mana. As decent as Day Squad Marshal is, and as good as it potentially would be with Perimeter Sergeant, 1 mana cyclers are so important to get these decks just operating at full value, full speed. We're not going to play any of this card, but I guess the closest would probably be Night Squad Commando, actually. In case we do end up with some aggressive humans themes, we do have that Perimeter Sergeant buffing all the humans when it attacks, so that's possible. And I'm fairly certain I will be playing none of these cards, but I'll take a Swiftwater Cliffs. I could see a world in which we open a blue, red, and white rare that's really good, and then end up wanting to try to play that, either the Ultimatum or Whirlwind of Thought. It's not super likely, though, because we would need to open that rare and then also get more mana fixing than just that. But at least getting that 1 mana fixing out of the way makes it more possible if we do open one of those kind of cards. Now we have a Genesis Ultimatum. That's basically going to be impossible to play. We do have a Ferocious Tigorilla to go with our Sonorous Howlbonder, but we also have Stormwild Caprador, which is a really good combo with another cycling card that we're likely to pick up because it's a common one that isn't drafted heavily. I believe it's called Shredded Sails, 1 in red, to deal 4 damage to a flyer, destroy an artifact, something like that, or you can just cycle it for 2. And that's the kind of card that you're just going to be randomly running in these cycling decks, and anytime that you draw it and have a Stormwild Caprador out, you could just spend 2 mana to give the Stormwild Caprador +4/+4. Also, if we're really lucky, our opponents won't read this, and they're playing a red deck and maybe do some damage to it, or a green deck and use a ram through trying to damage it. So Stormwild Caprador, the ability on this is actually more relevant than it seems. It seems like the kind of card that's like a whatever, it's a 3 mana 1/3 flyer. That ability is never going to come up, but it does occasionally, and every time that it does come up, it's absolutely huge. So I kind of like trying out the Stormwild Caprador here, honestly, over the Tigorilla, although that would combo with the Hellbonder. And now I do like taking the damage-based removal here, although we have that Sanctuary Smasher. Kind of a big cycler, but a cycler nonetheless. This one gives us even a first strike counter when we cycle it, so we're not just drawing a card off of it. Probably want to take that here, although we don't have a ton of removal. Don't have any removal right now, I think. Just the Zenith Flare, which ideally we're using to finish off our opponents. So maybe we do have to be diligent here, take that Rumbling Rock Slide so that we have ways to interact with our opponent's stuff. I'm just going to go for the fun route here, take that big old Sanctuary Smasher. I want to have just a million cycling cards for this Unpredictable Cyclone. And now I'm going to scoop up a Snare Tactician. We have taken a ton of cycling cards, and this gives us a way to, even if we don't have removal, keep our opponent's game plan under control, just tapping down all of their creatures so that we can ideally chip away at them with ours until we draw into a Zenith Flare to finish them off, or an Unpredictable Cyclone to just start going crazy. So Snare Tactician, a very, very high pick for cycling decks. We're happy to see it here. This pack is absolutely sick as well. Like, Snare Tactician isn't the only card here. Go for Blood would be great for our deck because it's a removal spell that we can cycle when we don't have a creature out to fight, and it cycles for 1 generic mana, which is super sweet. There's also Evolving Wilds for mana fixing. There's Ruinous Ultimatum if we want to try a little bit of a black splash. We've seen how explosive this card can be in our first quick draft, so Ruinous Ultimatum sick too. And of course, Auspicious Starks. If we were playing green at all, this is one of the best mutate cards in the whole set. Really, really fun ability there. So this is just a sick pack all around, but I'm going to be scooping up a Snare Tactician out of that one. And here's the first time we're actually going to be taking just an off-color cycler, which is a thing you absolutely do in these cycling decks when you start getting the cycling payoffs. When we have Zenith Flare and Snare Tactician, Dranistinger, all that type of stuff, we're super happy to play a card in our deck that just literally is 1 mana of any color, draw a card. That's all that the card is. So we can take an off-color cycling card because that card, we can cycle it anytime we draw it. so that we're drawing whatever we would have drawn anyway as if it weren't in our deck, and anytime we do have these cycling payoffs out, it's actually doing a ton of stuff. So just taking off-color 1-mana cyclers are great in the cycling decks. So for Boon of the Wishgiver, we could take Startling Development. It doesn't really matter between the two. I suppose if we take like Startling Development, if we randomly get a tiny bit of a blue splash, we could play, 1 Swift Water Cliffs instead of 1 Mountain, and then maybe every now and then we randomly want to use this to turn one of our creatures into a 4/4 and try to chip in for extra damage. So I guess maybe this a little bit of a higher pick than the Boon. It also is an instant, so that would give us more instants if we cared about that for Unpredictable Cyclone, trying to hit more instant cards. Yeah, we don't really have any sorceries in the deck, so if we take Boon of the Wishgiver and we cycle it, we're not going to hit anything off of it right now. But also, if we take Boon of the Wishgiver and then we just put 1 single sorcery in our deck, then we know that every time we cycle it with an Unpredictable Cyclone out, we'll just guaranteed hit whatever other sorcery we took. This is actually a more interesting pick than I thought it would be. We have that incremental, or that very slight upside of Startling Development if we throw 1 Swift Water Cliffs in instead of 1 Mountain. But then we also have the very slight upside on Boon of the Wishgiver of just how well it would synergize with Unpredictable Cyclone, because the less instants that we have in our deck with Unpredictable Cyclone, the less cards that we can hit that aren't Zenith Flare. Like maybe we cycle a Coordinated Charge and then we just hit a Startling Development, that would suck. And the less cards of each card type we have, the more guaranteed we are to hit whatever we want. So if we just have 2 sorceries in our deck, 1 Boon and 1 other sorcery, every time we cycle Boon, we know we hit the other one. But both of these are very, very narrow, very corner cases that are unlikely to ever come up, because it has to be a game where we have Unpredictable Cyclone out and we draw Boon, or it has to be a game that we draw Swift Water Cliffs and Startling Development. So I generally don't know what's better here, and it's such a minor choice that, I don't know, I'm just going to go with the rarer card, the uncommon. And we will not run the tapped land in this deck. Now we do have Checkpoint Officer to tap down creatures, or the 2-mana cycling card of Raking Claws. Don't love Frill Scare Mentor, pretty slow card for this kind of deck. I feel like Checkpoint Officer is also kind of a slow card for this sort of deck. But at the same time, we need something in our deck that isn't just a bunch of cycling cards, so I don't know here. If there was a 1-mana cycler, I would scoop it up pretty easily, but this one does cycle for 2, so it's a little harder. I mean, we do have 10 creatures somehow. I guess we do have some big cycling creatures, the Smasher, Vantasaur. Ooh, we got some slow creatures in here, some Auricorns. Yeah, our mana curve is looking pretty high right now. Kind of do want another cheap creature. I suppose, I don't know, I'm just going to go with the Raking Claws and stick to the more combo kind of cycle deck with Unpredictable Cyclone and Zenith Flare. Just cycle everything all day and hope to not die in the early game, and then if we survive long enough, Zenith Flare is just massive. And now that does make this pick a lot easier. Now we can just take the Sabertooth to chip in for that early damage, lower their life total, and all of our random cycling combat tricks like Raking Claws are active when we have an early creature out like this. Fight as one's good in an aggressive deck with a lot of humans and non-humans, but we don't have the creature count for it right now, certainly not in the low mana costs. And, we can cycle Greater Sandworm for 2, and we could hit it off an Unpredictable Cyclone if we're incredibly lucky. But there's also Garrison Cat, which we know we can always cast, and that's just a little 1/1 to block things for a little while. I don't know, I like the very minor chance of hitting Greater Sandworm on Unpredictable Cyclone, but that's probably going a little too deep on the cycling plan. That's probably not worth it. Yeah, we'll go Garrison Cat. Now, don't really have anything. Actually, no, Memory Leak is a card that cycles for 1 generic mana, so get in here, Memory Leak. Nothing out of this pack. I guess we could potentially splash in a Channeled Force, but this doesn't seem incredible. Discard X cards, draw X cards, then deal X damage to a target. I guess that's like okay. Oh, there's a Frostveil Ambush, though. 1 generic mana cycler. Get in here. Has been long enough since I drafted this format heavily going for the cycling deck that I've kind of forgotten what cards are the one generic mana cyclers, so I have to look at every card every time I see a pack just to make sure. Yeah, these are 2 mana cyclers, so they're not as good, but also I don't know if we're playing a Blister Spit Gremlin. Probably not, but yeah, I'll just pick up a Suffocating Fumes. Probably going to cut that. Not going to do any of this. Or any of this. As we end the draft. Or end the pack. We still have one more pack to get more Zenith Flares or Snare Tacticians or Prickly Marmosets if we're lucky. But this one's going to be a pacifism. We're super low on removal. I don't think we have a single removal spell right now outside of the Zenith Flare. So pacifism is real necessary right now, so I'm just going to scoop that right up. Other notable cards for us are just Checkpoint Officer and Day Squad Marshal here, I think. Just the decent humans to slow your opponent down, get some creatures out. Titan's Nest is just not a card that's playable and limited, just way too slow. And I guess we could try a Necropanther in this deck because we do have white mana for the hybrid mutate cost, but not so sure about that one. We will definitely enjoy having a pacifism in here, and we'll definitely enjoy having a Shredded Sails. This is the card that I was talking about to combo with the Stormwild Caprador. If we happen to draw both of them, that's great. Give our Stormwild Caprador +4/+4. If we don't draw both of them, we can literally just cycle Shredded Sails, so it's all well and good. So definitely a fun little 2-card combo to run in these red-white decks in this format. Now, we do have another removal spell, which seems important, the Rumbling Rock Slide. Although there's also Spell Eater Wolverine to get another great aggressive creature. There's actually a pretty sick pump spell, because it cycles for 2 and it's a combat trick, so I actually do like Will of the All Hunter a lot. But, yeah, I'm going to take more removal here. We just have Pacifism, so Pacifism, Rumbling Rock Slide, Zenith Flare should be decent. It's also damage-based removal, so we could end up using it on our Stormwild Caprador if we have an interesting game like that, an interesting couple of draws there. Do have another removal spell here, Divine Arrow, but I think it's the worst removal spell out of everything we've seen by far. We've got just better removal spells than that right now, but we don't have a ton of them, so it's still an option. There's also Imposing Vantisar for a 1-mana cycler, but we've got a lot of cycling in the deck, not too many cycling payoffs, so grabbing a Prickly Marmoset's going to be great, gives us another card that can really go off if we are cycling multiple cards in a turn, and it can especially go off with our double Raking Claws here if we give this a large amount of power and then give it double strike. That can be a big old swing and can often end the game. So, very happy to see the Prickly Marmoset. Wow, this is a wonderful pack for us as well. There's Lava Serpent, which can cycle in the early game, or we can cast in the late game, so it's a card that'll combo well with Unpredictable Cyclone, because it gets a big creature for us to hit when we're cycling our other creatures, like, I guess we only have one other creature with cycling, the Drana Stinger. But then there's Snare Tactician, which is so good at just keeping your opponent under lock while you're cycling. And then there's Stormwild Caprador, which is, you know, the fun combo with, like, Shredded Sails, even potentially with Rock Slide. So Caprador is cool. And there's also a red-white dual land. Like, all these are great for us. But I'm going to have to just go with a Snare Tactician here. That card is exceptional at just harassing your opponent, keeping them shut down. Take another Raking Claws here, I suppose. Seems fine. Ooh, Traneth Stinger, another great little cycling payoff to be draining life from our opponent while we're cycling. And another early game creature, that is what we need a lot, but there's that Will of the All Hunter, actually a cycling card I do like quite a bit, one I would run above some of the other cyclers we have in our deck. So if we do wheel the first one we saw, we'll definitely play it, but I think Traneth Stinger is still a step above here. We're not going to play any of these cards, most likely. If Pyroceratops got a +1/+1 counter whenever you cycled, instead of just when you cast the things, that would be absolutely sick. We'd totally run it, but we're going to be cycling our non-creature cards a lot more often than casting, I think. Excuse me. Could actually play a Day Squad Marshal to pretty good use. Don't think I'm playing any of this stuff. Definitely gonna play another Spell Eater Wolverine in here. Happy to wheel that. And more stuff that I will not play. Wield the Red-White Duel or Perimeter Sergeant, but our human count's not insane, is it? We do have 7 humans. We could have like the perfect curve out with that. How difficult is our mana base? How restrictive? Not too much. We don't have a card that requires 2 mana of a specific color until 5. We just have the 1 Unpredictable Cyclone. I mean, Sonar's Hellbonder does require double red, but I could see cutting that if we don't have a duel. Or just dealing with it. We have a Perimeter Sergeant, 2 Snare Tacticians. I kind of like another Perimeter Sergeant here. We don't curve out like crazy with it very often, though. We only have 2 humans that cost 2 or less mana. So it doesn't do anything insane that often, but like sometimes it's attacking alongside Snare Tacticians or Day Squad Marshals, and that's putting in a lot of work. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to take the Windscarred Crag. I don't think it's just going to be doing a whole ton that often. We do get to cut a lot of lands out of this deck. We're definitely not playing these blue and black lands. But when you have a lot of cards that cycle for 1 mana, you can run a pretty low land count because of the fact that anytime you're stuck on 1 or 2 lands, you can keep cycling all your 1 generic cards to kind of dig for those lands. Probably not playing Suffocating Fumes. So that cycles for 1. Ideally, we're casting Drannith Stingers, though. Rarely will we want to cycle those. I guess we don't actually have a ton of 1 mana cyclers, unfortunately. You would like just a million of those. Don't think we're going to play Auricorns in here. This is a card we're only cycling, and we're going to cycle it on 2, or the vast majority of the time. Don't love the Hellbonder here. This is going to be a lot of piles here. I'm trying to spread out. These are like the cards I'm probably cutting before anything else. These are the cyclers. I'm wanting to see how many cycling cards I have in my deck, so I know how many times I can just immediately replace a card with potentially digging into a land. Yeah, I guess worst case scenario, we can cycle those Drannith Stingers for 1. But that'll let me know like how many lands I can really cut down on, because usually you can cut quite a few from the cycling decks, ideally. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards that cycle for 1. 2, 3, 4, 5 cards that cycle for 2. 1 card that cycles for 3. I guess 6 cards that cycle for 2. We don't want to cycle Unpredictable Cyclone, but if we have a Zenith Flare in hand, I mean, we'll do it. So let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 13 cycling cards in this deck. So it's a lot of cards to try to filter through to draw the lands. I don't really want to play anything I put in the maybe pile, so I kind of like just cutting all these and then throwing in 3 more lands back in. 13 red, 12 white, so let's go just do an even split there. And that would be a 13 land deck. That does seem a little bit low, but we do have all that cycling. We can use those when we're not drawing enough lands. And our curve does basically stop at like 4. Everything we only have 1 card that we actually want to cast that costs more than 4, and that's Unpredictable Cyclone. Like running Sanctuary Smasher is just the combat trick, I think is all well and good. $13 lands, maybe a bit bold though. I could see 14 here still. Maybe cut one of these Garrison Cats or something. You know what? I'm just going to go for it. We're going to go absolutely all in here and just do the 13 land cycling deck completely. Just cycling all day long. Cycle to hit our land drops, hopefully. Cycle to trigger Snare Tacticians and Prickly Marmosets and Drannith Stingers. Really just trying to do the thing here. This is not the craziest cycling deck I've ever seen in this format. Definitely at the start of the format, it was pretty underdrafted. So you could, well, this is an issue and a half. Arena is not responding completely. I've got an error report, so I need to reopen before I get a game loss. To start off this draft, that would be the worst. Completely lost my train of thought there. That always is a bit of a bummer and very concerning when you have arena issues. Probably going to lose an hourglass here at the start. Get roped immediately. Alright, so we're just on white mana here, but we can cycle on turn 1 and 2, reaching for red. But we do need red to cast all this stuff. We're on the draw too. We don't need red mana till turn 3. We're going to have multiple draws to do so. We draw 1 card turn 1 plus Memory Leak. So we draw 2 cards on the first turn. We draw 2 more cards the turn after that. So we're digging 4 cards deep before we draw our land on turn 3. So we're digging 5 cards deep looking for a red source. So we are going pretty far into our deck here, thanks to our cycling cards, and even further with Imposing Vantasar. So I'm absolutely just going to keep it here. Looks like we are in the cycling mirror match, but we did hit our mountain, so that is great. Although mountain swamp here, not the exact mirror. I think I'd rather cycle a Raking Claws before a Shredded Sails here, so I think that is likely the cycle. Spell Eater Wolverine is going to have Double Strike if we just have 3 instants or sorceries in grave. Alright, if they've got Monstrous Step in there, they're 100% just a cycling deck. Even if they are playing black mana, they could be red, white, and black, or they could just be red, black cycling. It does happen. Ooh, Pacifism's a pretty great draw. I think we just get our Wolverine out here. And if it doesn't get removed quickly, we'll be attacking with it next turn as a double striker because we can cycle our thing at instant speed. Although our opponent does have the Fire Prophecy to just blow that out right now. So we do already have 2 cyclers in grave for Zenith Flare. 3 more cyclers in hand, so whenever we draw Zenith Flare, it's already at basically 5, which is great. I don't actually really want to cycle the Vantasar here, although I think I will cycle Shredded Sails in case we draw a 2-drop like Draneth Stinger. But we're only 2 mana away. We're only 2 turns away from just starting to cast a bunch of big dorks, which is not a bad failsafe as a way to end this game. If our opponent plays something that puts like a massive amount of pressure on us, we could cycle the Vantasar, trying to draw into more immediate plays, because as it stands, we're not playing anything next turn. But for now, I think we're doing fine. Even if they play like an Unbroken Bond and return that Titanoth Rex, we can just pacify it. So opponent might be on like 5 color here with this Migration Path. No, just double greens that are on Jund. Green, red, and black. Very interesting deck from our opponent. Ton of cycling cards in here. I wonder what that is for. Maybe a bunch of Prickly Marmosets, or maybe just so they can thin out their deck and only reach their best cards. So we do draw a Garrison Cat, so I guess we do get to cast something here turn 5. Although it is a 1/1, so certainly not exciting. It's definitely a weird game of Magic here. Cycling the Draneth Healer. And passing turn. So maybe just a bunch of removal from them. I do like drawing that Draneth Stinger. I'll probably just cast that, but not right now. We'll send in for an attack and see if... I don't know why they would, but we'll see if they spend a removal spell on our Garrison Cat. And then I think we play Imposing Vantasar first, because they have like 5 cards in their hand and they've been doing nothing but cycling, so I feel like they're very likely to have removal. Oh yeah, that's a Reanimator spell that also fights with something, so we get hit really hard here. We get hit for 11, but it would have been worse if we played the Sanctuary Smasher. Ooh, hit for 16. Titanoth Rex Lava Serpent. I don't really know what is going on with our opponent's deck, but it is destructive and terrifying. So we can pacify Titanoth Rex now. We can chump block Lava Serpent twice thanks to the 1/1 tokens it gives us. And now we can just play multiple more creatures here to block with. So even if they have removal, we can make multiple blocks. The problem is if they have a way to destroy an enchantment, we will pretty much die on the spot, but we have quite a while to draw into something to deal with Lava Serpent, because we've got quite a few blocks on the board if they don't get rid of pacifism. Another Lava Serpent. Okay, so it's just like Jund Ramp. So all the green, black, red cyclers, those are just actually parts of their deck. And then the one generic mana cycler is just a one generic mana cycler, makes the deck operate a little faster. Oh dear. We have 4 power here, so we can't kill either of these. We have to block it all, or we die. Might be safer to hold on to Stormwild Caprador, because that doesn't die to damage-based removal. But if we hold on to Dranith Stinger... Oh, it looks like they're just cycling the fight spell away. Anyways, if we hold on to the Dranith Stinger, then it's possible that we get a little bit of damage out of it when we're cycling cards, and that gets them closer to dying to a Zenith Flare if we're lucky. 4 cards in hand, we're hoping for no more removal. They did cycle a Go for Blood, and I feel like they wouldn't have done that if they didn't have another way to kill creatures. So, yep. Assuming that Sanctuary Smasher's not long for the world there. Yeah, we're just getting devastated by the mono 6-drops deck. Nowhere near a fast enough start to kill them before they started making massive creatures, so just Jund Ramp there going to really give us the beats at the start here. We did draw like 1 million lands, so I think I'm happy with our 13 land count. Just looking back to see if we wanted more or less lands there. I don't think we cut down on lands, because 13 already seems really low, but cycling for more lands definitely worked out in that game. We certainly hit the 6 mana we needed for the big creatures. Alright, ooh, this hand is really good. We already have both of our colors. We get to drop a Prickly Marmoset on turn 3. That's likely to draw removal, but if they don't have removal, can be a massive threat. And then turn 5 we can get that unpredictable Cyclone out and just start trying to go off, do some crazy things with that. And if nothing else, we can cycle it to trigger our Prickly Marmoset. Glimmerbell is going to start things off. I think I kind of want to just kill that now, because there are some mutate creatures that are cheaper to mutate than they are to cast, and if they try to mutate onto Glimmerbell and I kill it in response, whatever they were going to mutate onto Glimmerbell will hit the board anyway, so I kind of want to just kill it before they can even try to mutate anything. They are green-blues that are going to have mutate cards, and some of them are like 3-mana mutators like Migratory Greathorn. So yeah, now they just have to pass this turn, even if they had a mutate card. Don't know if they would for sure. We did draw the Stormwild Caprador that is the combo with Shredded Sails, so punished a little there, but I'm just going to drop down a Prickly Marmoset, see if this survives, and if it does, we are just going to beat in with that. Bristling Boar is the play from our opponent. We will have to cycle something to kill that if they block. If they don't block, what do we want to do here? Kind of want to cast a Dranith Stinger here, which means that I can cycle 1 2-mana card, but I don't want to cycle both of these. Could also just cast Day Squad Marshal. You know what? I can just save all this cycling damage for later and get a bunch of dorks on the board. A 3/3 is also really good at blocking the 4/3. So yeah, Day Squad Marshal seems super fine to me. Our opponent basically has complete confirmation we have cycling cards in hand now though, because we took so long on the decision. So a Hornbash Mentor comes out and gives Bristling Boar Trample, and they can put counters on it with the secondary effect on this card. Go for Blood, gonna go ahead and kill our Prickly Marmoset, so it was not long for this world. We have 5 mana now. We can just drop Unpredictable Cyclone and just see what happens. Sure. We gotta do the thing. It's our pick one, pack one. We gotta try it. Just one time. Definitely going to cycle Coordinated Charge. I guess the problem is in these cycling decks, you are running a lot of kind of random effects. So we could like cycle our Coordinated Charge, just our random instant speed effect, and then hit like... what's like the worst card? We could like Raking Claws and just give something double strike till end of turn for no reason. If we had a Zenith Flare now, we'd also be sad because we'd only do 1 damage off of it. I'm just going to take that. I think we're going to go aggressive here. Memory Leak. That is a sorcery. What sorceries do we have in the deck? Is it just Boon of the Wishgiver? Is that the only other sorcery we have in our deck? No, we have Rumbling Rock Slide. So we could hit Rumbling Rock Slide or Boon of the Wishgiver here. Both of those are incredible, so I think we absolutely cycle a Memory Leak. But I want to play Drannith Stinger first because I want to get aggressive. Just slam in for 4, and we'll also get an extra damage out of this by playing Stinger first. We get a damage, now we get to draw 4, or we get to kill one of their creatures. So I guess we get to draw 4. Seems good to me. We drew 2 of our Raking Claws, so we know we don't hit one of those when we cycle an instant. Makes it more likely we can hit like a Zenith Flare when we do so. I think I'm just going to play another Drannith Stinger, so now when we cycle next turn we really go off. Doing 2 damage per cycle, they're down to 13 already. If they don't just like lethal us here, we're going to have a very explosive turn next turn. Frostling's going to tap down the Day Squad Marshal so it doesn't attack in next turn. We do have 3 cycling cards in grave for Zenith Flare now if we hit it on the first Unpredictable Cyclone. Alright. I think we just go in, so let's... I don't think we actually cast a Coordinated Charge, though, although we could. If we attack with everybody, they block there, they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not going to lethal them, so we'll die on the crackback. So yeah, we're not going to actually cast Coordinated Charge. Let's cycle it and just see what we hit. So we're damaging them when we do this. We hit Frostveil Ambush, tap 2 of their creatures, they don't untap next turn, so keep the Bristling Boar tapped, tap down the Frostlings, now we get to attack him with everybody. We could lethal here, because we're hitting for 2 more damage, getting another instant. If we hit Zenith Flare, we just go insane. Oh my god, that's brutal. That's incredibly bad beats for our opponent. Absolutely an absurd game with the Unpredictable Cyclone. When we drew that sorcery with cycling, I'm like, wait, what are the only sorceries left in our deck? It was like, oh my god. That was going to be incredible either way. Blow up a creature, draw 4. And the draw 4 was definitely even better than blowing up a creature would have been. Absolutely absurd. Alright, we're going first. We got that pacifism. We can cycle Memory Leak here to draw more land. But we're probably just going to turn 1 Garrison Cat, turn 2 Stinger, and start hitting our opponent so that Stinger's life drain can kill them pretty quickly like we tried to do last game. We could also just play Sabertooth turn 2. See that. Yeah, if we've got 3 lands here, I like just playing Sabertooth instead. We're just going to go all aggro here. Get the highest power creature out, then next turn we cast Drannith Stinger and cycle Memory Leak if we don't need to pacify something, which ideally, if they're just playing a 2 mana card, it shouldn't be bad enough for us to have to pacify. Ooh, Sanctuary Smashes the draw. I'm going to play my land pre-combat then, just in case they somehow flash in a red creature. I don't think there's anything like that, but who knows. So we are really putting the beats on. Definitely going to cycle Memory Leak here, because we obviously can't cast it in this deck. They cycle Suffocating Fumes, I guess because they don't have the black mana for it, unfortunately, but that would have been really good to start this game off. They get to kill Sabertooth and Garrison Cat. Maybe they're just a red-white cycling deck. Ooh, Valiant Rescuer. That's a really bad card to see when we only have a Pacifism, because we can't stop its ability from going off, which will get them a 1/1 human basically every turn, because they're going to have the 1-mana generic cyclers, a really, really powerful cycling payoff, although it is an uncommon one, so you don't see it as often as the Stingers and Snarecasters that we have in our deck. Alright, well, they're almost definitely going to spit out a 1-1 here. They trade with Sabretooth that way. Anything they block with Rescuer, we can just cycle Smasher onto it, so I think we still just attack here. I feel like they probably won't block with the Rescuer. They'll just try to block with a 1-1 on something, and we can give whatever they throw the 1-1 onto first strike here. Deal a damage to them, save the Sabretooth. Put them down to 10, so the Stinger is definitely a win condition here. Do need to cycle 10 more cards if we don't hit them anymore, but ideally we can hit them more, and we have Raking Claws. If our 3-1 ever gets in, we can make that 6 damage to their face, which puts them very low. Just going to attack with Valiant Rescuer, definitely a solid play here, because I think there's no world in which you want to block with that. Ooh, Pacifism and Zenith Flare, both incredible draws. If we Pacify right now, we hit for 3, 4, 5, 6. But if we Raking Claws first, we definitely hit for 1. And if we hit another land, it's great. That seems too risky to me. I think we just put him down to 6 here. Or we deal 6 to him, put him down to 4. Obviously, if the next card we draw here is a land, just cycling a Raking Claws first would have been exceptional, but it's unlikely. So we're very likely trying to just get this Zenith Flare for lethal to end this, because now they have a giant field to sit behind. So let's just get stinging them, hoping to draw land. There's the land, so we know we can Zenith Flare in the future. Do we want the flyer out, or do we want to just cycle another card? I think we want to cycle another card that puts them down to 3, and we have Zenith Flare doing 4 damage after that. Yeah, we're just going to cycle a Raking Claws here. Alright, cycle the Raking Claws, see what happens. They do gain life whenever they cycle a card, so I don't want to end up Zenith Flaring them and having them gain life to where they go to 1. Alright, so that's their own Zenith Flare. We still get the damage off, so they're at 6 now. If I Zenith Flare, they go to 1. So we have to keep cycling cards here to make our Zenith Flare bigger. Day Squad Marshals the draw. We'll drop the Stormwild Caprador. Just kind of hoping they run out of cyclers here. I guess Sabretooth attacks in pretty well. Probably should have been attacking with that before, because they have to block it with everything if they want to kill it, and even then we just first strike their best creatures away. They probably just chump here. Yeah, I definitely should have attacked with that last turn. Kahira the Orphan Guard. 3/2 Vigilance gives all of their random beastly creature types +1/+1 in Vigilance, but a lot of humans here. Alright, they're tapped out, so we know we can Zenith Flare them. There's no 0 mana cycling card, so just get there at the end. And that will be 2 wins for the cycling deck. 2-1. Starting things off here. I've got to be a little honest here. I'm not actually enjoying this deck all that much. I think it's definitely not the greatest cycling deck that I've ever drafted, and also I am immediately getting reminded of the repetitive gameplay of the cycling decks in this format, where it is just sitting there cycling cards over and over, triggering random stuff till you draw into a Zenith Flare. So I think this is genuinely... Well, I am still doing well, probably my least favorite of the drafts I've done of this format so far. We are also playing against some of the cycling decks this time around. So, we're doing... Yep. This is how I remembered Ikoria. this is yeah, this is what I remembered the format being, which was just everybody playing a million 1-mana cyclers, the Valiant Rescuers and stuff, where if the Valiant Rescuer comes out, you don't have removal for it, they have a million 1/1s. This is going to be us coming back down to earth with the format, as fun as we had in our first couple drafts. This is the return to seeing the nasty underbelly of the format, one of the flaws of the format for sure. Oh yeah, this is straight up just the cycling mirror again. Valiant Rescuer into Reptilian Reflection here. So, guess we'll do our thing. I mean, the Snare Tacticians to just beat them up. Keep tapping all their stuff seems like an option. Flourishing Fox is the play, so if they were gonna start cycling cards, now would be the time. I think we're gonna cycle a Boon of the Wishgiver. Their end step, tap all their stuff down so we can start slapping them with the 2/3s. Start hitting them for 4 a turn, hopefully. Have that be our game plan for now. Alright, passing. If they cycle one card, though, they get a 1/1 and they have a 5/4 trample to block with. So we do need to hold up a card to cycle here, so I'll hold up a Raking Claws if they do that. Which it is likely they do. They do that, and then we still hit them for 4, but then on their next turn they hit us for 3, 4, 5, 6, because they hit us with a 1/1 and that stuff. I guess we get to play a Stormwild Caprador here. Yeah, let's just send in. If they cycle 2 cards on us, they do only get 1/1/1 anyway, so that doesn't blow us out. Yeah, let's just shut these down. Hit for 4, play our Caprador. Generally pretty worried here. Our opponent does just have the higher value cycling payoffs. The uncommon ones versus the common ones. The Rescuer is going to keep making their board larger and larger every turn, and the Fox is going to get larger and larger, so things are going to be a bit insurmountable for us if they do consistently draw the cycling cards, which is pretty likely. There are a lot of cards with cycling in the format. Flourishing Fox isn't too hard for us to control because we do have double Snarecaster, but the Rescuer just making their field massive is certainly an issue. Spell Eater Wolverine, they got 1 mana up. I'm gonna assume no 1 mana cycler here, because I think if they had a 1 mana cycler, they'd just do it there, because I've got just a 1/3 to block with, so they do a 1 mana cycler, they hit in with a 3/3 and a 5/4. I can only block 1, and if I block I lose my creature, I take 8 there, go to 12. So they don't have a 1 mana cycling card. I'm pretty confident in that. We don't have any cycling cards now, so don't think we can do much here. I think we can go ahead and attack with Caprador, because we're going to play a ton of creatures now, Day Squad plus Sabertooth. So we got just a million blockers here. Savai Thundermane, yeah, this is another one really good cycling payoff. But there's Zenith Flare, an exceptional cycling payoff. This one, when they cycle cards, basically all of their cycling cards turn into removal spells too, which is really brutal because most of these decks do end up with like 10 cycling cards in them. So now just like half their deck is removal spells for our smaller creatures. I'm very worried. I don't think that it's to the point where I just Zenith Flare the Thundermane immediately, because we know they don't have a 1-mana cycler. So if they have a cycling card, they probably just like have 1 2-mana cycler. Hopefully they just don't have one right now. I feel like if we end up just casting a Zenith Flare on the Thundermane, we don't really have a way to win this game. I guess we could just chip at him with Stormwild Caprador, and that's a possibility. But like Zenith Flare, if we draw into cycling cards and loop those, can absolutely be the win condition. Although if the Thundermane goes off, like it whittles down our board and gains them a bunch of life, so that makes Zenith Flare get much, much farther from killing them anyway. It's a hard choice between just holding onto the Zenith Flare or shooting the Thundermane. I guess we probably should. Although we're kind of just in the top deck war here. I don't love this, but I'm going to get that thing off the board. If they have any cycling cards in their hand, we're going to see them right now. At least one of them. Get their 1/1, get a counter on a thing, go ahead and use removal spells. They do have a cycling card in hand. Yeah, we probably should have just killed that last turn, because then they would not have killed the Perimeter Sergeant that we cast here. We did get them to spend a cycling card on the defensive at the very least, so that the Reptilian Reflection can't come at us, but we do have a ton of creatures on the board, so Reflection doesn't even attack in incredibly well. Ooh, they got the Snare Tactician too. Opponent definitely just one-upping us with what they were able to pick up in the draft here. Our opponent is like the name brand, and we're over here just with our best choice cycling deck. I think we're just getting outclassed in this one, but it is going to take a while. Maybe not, because now we don't have good blocks for Reptilian Reflection. We have to lose a Snare Tactician if we want to kill it. Yeah, this is pretty much insurmountable at this point. As the prediction was. I guess we kill a Snare Tactician here. That thing has double strike, doesn't it? Not yet, but they have 3 mana up. If they cycle a single instant or sorcery or cast one, it's going to have double strike. I guess we could just kill Snare Tactician, because we're definitely just going to take 1,000,000 from that. Just take 1,000,000 damage here. No biggie. Oh my god. That will mega do it. Could Rock Slide my Caprador and slam in with that thing? I actually should have played that one out. I was gonna lose the game regardless of what we do, but Rock Slide on Caprador is hilarious. To try for the lethal there, because we've got the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands. So we could have hit him for 9 with the Caprador, but then they crack back with this field. We're at 13. If they don't cycle a card because we're at 13, we block there, and or actually we go block there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess if they have no other cycling decks in their cycling cards in their hand, we could win off of 2 swings from Caprador. So yeah, should have played it out there, but it takes 1 single cycling card to win for them there, and all of these decks have 10 plus cyclers, so We had a non-zero chance at victory, but it was still pretty low. I was just instinctually already on the concede plan before they started suffocating all of our creatures. So I was just like, well, that's a removal spell. It's going to kill one of their creatures, and we're going to lose. But no, could have made a really big Caprador. But definitely not the ideal way to end that game. A bit of tilt there, taking our 2% chance of victory to a 0% chance of victory, but this draft is definitely reminding me of the downsides of the format, unfortunately, and we're part of the problem with our red-white cycling deck here with a Zenith Flare in the opener. I think I am going to keep this, cycling with that Raking Claws, getting that Garrison Cat out turn 1. The cat is not very good, it's definitely filler, but better than a land in here, because we have so many cycling cards. Draw Shredded Sails. Rather actually cycle Raking Claws first. In case we get our Caprador, we can do those fun combos. Farfinder is going to start things off. The 1/1 that grabs a land, puts it into hand. Very good with mutate cards, so they are green, black, and white here. I would expect to see a lot of that kind of stuff. Snare Tactician's going to be pretty good at them. Hold their big mutated creatures at bay. So I think we just slam in with Garrison Cat. And I kind of like dropping down Snare Tactician. Spell Eater Wolverine would be fine too, but we need 3 instants and sorceries engraved to double strike with it. We're only going to have 2 right now if we cycle Shredded Sails, so let's just get the Tactician out first, I think. Just start tapping their creature every turn. Just in case it mutates into something big just right now, which I think is pretty likely. Yep, a big old menace creature too, so we can't even block that one right now. I kind of want to discard this land. Is that wrong? I don't think we're going to Zenith Flare for a long time. Yeah, I'm going to discard this land, because hopefully we can cycle into another one, and we only really need 4. So yeah, the big old Vigilant Menace creature, we definitely have to tap that down every time we want to attack. Could hold on to the Cycler to tap that down during their next turn, but I've got a pretty healthy life total right now, so I kind of also like making the field a little bigger. We'll play a Perimeter Sergeant here that adds 4 damage to the board if we can get through, because it attacks for 3 and gives Snare Tactician an extra power. So we do that, set up for the cycle next turn. It's raining pretty hard here. I do have a noise suppressor on, so I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's very comfy. Alright, so no attacks there. I guess we can just Garrison Cat, Spell Eater Wolverine, make our board even bigger for when we do chip through. But I don't really want to just tap down like a Cavern Whisperer and attack in here, because I don't love trading Perimeter Sergeant for the Bristling Boar, and that would be the only creature that I attack with here, because the other ones would just get eaten up by it. Six mana for our opponent now, so they can play some pretty big things, like an Imposing Vantasar if they have another one. Just a Farfinder, grab another land. A Could have the green-white-black ultimatum. I believe that brings every card from your graveyard back to the battlefield. So that wouldn't be that crazy right now. It just brings the 3/6 back. But later in the game, it could be if they make a lot of trades. Well, they're looking at all our creatures. This is probably removal. Oh, they're just doing the math for combat here. They do want to send in. Interesting. I think I just take it. I want to make sure that we're hitting them for as much damage as possible when we hit them back. Definitely like cycling the boon first, because we're definitely not casting that ever. Spell Eater Wolverine requires one more card to get double strikes, so if I cycle for Spell Eater Wolverine, we hit for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, but then we take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if they have something that mutates for 4 power, we would die on the crackback. I think we set up for a next turn kill. We hold the Garrison Cats back for blocks. Send in for a good amount of damage here. And I can drop another Spell Eater Wolverine, and we can definitely find lethal next turn. We're also relatively well defended here by the 2 chump blockers and a 3/2 if need be. Alright, I suppose we do probably need another cycler to find lethal. Right now we just tap down the 3/5 or the 4/4. Send in with everybody. They can block there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not lethal yet. It's probably not worth it yet. I think I cycle Shredded Sails when they go to combat. It'll stay tapped during their turn, and then we can send in everybody and Zenith Flare for 3. That gets us really close to lethal. And if we hit another cycling card, especially a 1-mana cycler, we'll definitely get there. Well, they're getting more creatures here. I think we still go for it here, because the longer this game goes on, the less likely we are to be able to chip in. Ooh, Pacifism, that's great. Rumbling Rock Slide's great. We can kill the 3/5, and then they don't have any good blockers for our Spell Eaters. They have to triple block. Even if they triple block, we do 3 damage there, 3 damage there, so we kill both those things. So they have to double block with 2 boars, and we get to kill them both for 1 Wolverine. Yeah, I'm going to Rock Slide here, and this also lets us hold up potentially Pacifism plus Zenith Flare if we draw 1 more land. That will be exceptional. Alright, so we're just going to kill everybody here. They just have a Cavern Whisperer left, and so unless they have like a board wipe, we're doing very, very well here. We've got an Almighty Brushwag. Draw for turn, land. Well, Pacifism, Zenith Flare it is. Zenith Flare only does 3 though, so Zenith Flare can't actually kill something, but it could potentially kill them. They have 4. They have enough mana to buff Brushwag twice and make it a 7/7. So we could pacify Brushwag. We attack with everybody. They block there. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11. Zenith Flare makes it lethal. They're just going to scoop them up right there. So that puts us to 3-2 now. So if we do lose this one, this will be just a 3-3 run. Nice average one. Which I'd be fine with. We've definitely seen in our other matches that this cycling deck is not the craziest cycling deck ever. It's a pretty mediocre cycling deck for sure, but the strategy is just so strong that even with a pretty mediocre cycling deck, you can definitely do 3-3 and better. But yeah, we absolutely got it handed to us by that red-white-black cycling deck. Although we did have the potential for the fun Stormwild Caprador play for the last-ditch effort there. I did leave that one a little preemptively. Alright, so we're against blue and black so far. This was a bit of a bold keep, but we've got the 2 1-mana cycling cards, which is why I did keep this, because we can dig pretty far for pretty cheap. We did hit the turn 2 land. We'll see if we hit the turn 3 land. Get our Caprador out. If we do, we have the Shredded Sails combo. We also have the Rock Slide combo. That would be hilarious. We don't hit the 3rd land. Do I want to cycle the Shredded Sails? I think I do, because I have Spell Eater Wolverine and Snare Tactician too. We have other pretty important 3-mana cards to hit. So now we're not using Shredded Sails for 4 counters on this, but we could still Rock Slide onto it later. But Spell Eater Wolverine's already double strike, so we'll get that one out first. They are blue-black, so it probably just draws removal. Looks like they're just cycling a Void Beckoner for now. If they don't have immediate removal for the Wolverine, that will be fantastic, because we have Pacifism or Rock Slide to get rid of whatever creature they play, if they're just planning to block it. Charge of the Forever Beast. So there is the removal. Stormwild Caprador would block that removal as well, but we did not see green mana from them until now. So in a blue-black deck, we were not expecting damage-based removal, so they kind of got us with the big surprise there. The bamboozle. If they were like green-red, if this were a green-red duel and these were 2 mountains or 2 forests, I probably would have just slammed down Caprador, because almost all their removal is stuff that can't hit Caprador in that color scheme. Death Touch Lifelink. Let's just not, I think. Can also cycle Boon here and just tap it down for now, but then it attacks at us and gains life next turn. Yeah, I want to stay aggressive, so I want to just shut that down right now, and we can hold on to the Boon to tap down whatever their next creature is. Humble Naturalist, just a 1/3. Ooh. When they were playing Humble Naturalist, I was expecting like 2 creatures this turn or something. Looks like nope. We do draw another Spell Eater Wolverine, which is pretty great. We can also play 2 creatures now, which is nice. Could also go for the Rock Slide on Caprador if I play Caprador this turn, but I'm just going to play the highest power stuff immediately and use Rock Slide probably to kill one of their creatures. Honey Mammoth. It is not going to kill that. That is a big, chunky creature. So we do need to draw another cycling card to tap that down to be able to get in. I could Rock Slide at pre-combat so that Wolverine gets in, but that feels like a waste. Because then we're casting Rock Slide just to get in 6 damage. And then the Honey Mammoth just sticks around. We only need 1 more land for Rock Slide to kill it by itself, too, so we don't even necessarily need to hit a Cycler. A Cycler or a land is a good draw. I think we play Caprador now, so that if we hit a Cycler, we tap down Honey Mammoth and then just send in the squad. Also buffing Caprador a bunch, and if we hit a land, then we just Rock Slide the Mammoth. So here's a Farfinder from our opponent grabbing a land. So they can cast the Bushmeat Poacher here. We get a Perimeter Sergeant as the draw. Sets up for bigger attacks in the future once we're tapping things down. But so does Day Squad Marshal. Yeah, we only got the 1 human out until we cast Day Squad Marshal, so we probably cast Day Squad Marshal first. Just hit them for the 1 here. I don't love just blowing the Rock Slide on the Caprador because they're so heavy into black and blue. So if they just have like 1 targeted removal spell, that's just like destroy target creature and they cast it on Caprador, we're down 2 cards there, which is rough. But Caprador would be hitting for 6, so it would be a 3-turn clock. I think if I draw like nothing here, I'll probably do it now. But they also have a Dreamtail Heron with Vigilance to block it now. There's the 6th land to kill the Honey Mammoth, but they have a 3/4 and a 2/4 out now, so we can't really get in on the ground. Yeah, I guess we can go for the 7-power Caprador that kills them in two hits, but Poacher also gains them life here. We can kill whatever one of their creatures that we want, or we can make our Stormwild Caprador a 7/9. Just go for the 7/9. But I'm highly expecting our Caprador to just get blood curdled here. Just destroy target creature. Hey, if we have the 2-mana double strike card, we would win on the spot if they don't block. Oh, I guess they can gain the life there to stop that. So nice, they played around that and also didn't have to chump block with the Dreamtail Heron to do so. Glowstone Recluse, mutate onto the Heron, they draw a card, get some counters on it. Still not big enough to block the Caprador well. So what are our best draws? If we just draw like a chain of cycling cards, that's obviously exceptional. Zenith Lair is pretty good now as well. Does 4. Ooh, that's going to be a massive Dreamtail Heron, isn't it? Yeah, now we just really, really want to draw cycling cards to just tap that thing down. In fact, yeah, I was going to say if we draw a cycling card, I think we just win, because we know we hit them for 7, they can only block 3 things, so we just win by cycling here, because they can't gain life. We draw more cards, but we already have lethal on board. They don't have the 1 mana up to gain life here. It's exactly 10. That was a lucky way to end that one. I was getting really scared of that Dreamtail Heron. One more hit from it would kill us there, so we did need to draw that cycler, but it had been a little while since we drew a cycler, so I think it was fair enough to get one there. 4 and 2 now. Of course, I made a deal with the devil here, so everything I say, it feels like there's just a level of I don't know, like evil behind it. Like, was it really fair enough when we're playing the cycling deck? Probably not. Just, it feels grimy, all of the plays. Definitely, it is actually a pretty difficult deck to run. Like, I've certainly made plenty of misplays here today, but it is a brutally good deck for a draft format. But 4 wins now. We are doing great on the win rate front here in the format as a whole and in today's video, so can't be too unhappy about that. But I think this one might be the end of the Ikoria drafts, maybe just 1 or 2 more. But yeah, making the deal with the devil here has kind of hindered my my enjoyment a little bit, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's cycling time. Opponent's on blue-red for sure. Double Swiftwater Cliffs and an island. Could be on more colors than that, but that much is for certain. I like getting that Caprador out here. We have both Shredded Sails and Rumbling Rockslide. We can pay for our previous misdeeds and actually make a giant Caprador this game. Instead of doing the... instead of doing the concede we did earlier, but unfortunately the Essence Scatter to shut down the Caprador will stop that from happening. We're just going to slap with our early creatures here, and Snare Tactician does resolve, so we can start tapping down any creatures they play. Hopefully, with the slow start that they have here, we can just put too much pressure on them for them to survive. I like potentially cycling this Shredded Sails here right now, so we could hit the 4th land and play 2 cards this turn, but I also like holding on to it too. If they play a blocker, tap that down. Yeah, that seems really good, because then we just have lethal, right? We tap that down, they go to 9. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on board. We can do 2 more damage with Raking Claws. We have Zenith Flare as well. Draw another Cycler. Pretty certain this is really lethal. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 1 damage off, never mind. Casting Raking Claws does 2 more. Cycling Smasher does 1 more. Yeah, I should have just held on to that. because we don't have lethal here. I'll Cycle Smasher now, though. Tap down one of their attackers or blockers. Yeah, they're just going to scoop them up. Shouldn't have cycled in the main phase there. Should have just sent in. Held up multiple cyclers to tap things down the next turn. But yeah, that is where the Snarecaster's super brutal. If you get that out before they start playing blockers, then you just cycle during their turn all the time, keep everything they have tapped, and they can just never block. Or attack, even. So here we are in round 8. 5 wins and 2 losses here. Was looking like a potential 3-3 at the start, but we're definitely back in it for another potential 7-win run. I'll be doing my best here, but we are against a deck that does have Ikoria in the companion zone, with Swiftwater Cliffs as the first land, so they're blue, red, and white, or blue, red, and green, or even 4 or 5 color. We don't know. So, already a little scared of our opponent. It's always a great time when you can draft around the companions, because then you do have the 8 card opening hands. Essentially, you do have to spend the 3 to put it into your hand, but the card advantage is there for sure. Also, Essence Symbiotes, they do have the early blocker here, and it will gain them life. I think I'm actually going to cast Perimeter Sergeant here, because that's a creature that I'm not unhappy to trade off in the early game, whereas both Snare Tactician and Spell Eater Wolverine, neither of those are ones that I want to trade with their early creatures. Those are creatures that are going to put in more work if they stay around later in the game. Well, they are blue, red, green, and white here, which is very cool. Wonder if they're 4 or the full 5 colors. Definitely doing a mutate deck when you see somebody start with an Essence Symbiote and they get the Porky Parrot onto it, so they have a 4/5 that can tap to do a damage to any target. That is really going to hold us off here super well. If they mutate it one more time, it starts pinging things for 2. Porky Parrot is a really, really scary card if you get a mutate stack going with it, because then they can just kill all of our creatures by just tapping a creature every turn. So here I think we just attack with Perimeter Sergeant, because we're like, I'm okay with the 2-for-1 to kill it, because it's such an important threat. If they mutate onto it one more time, they just can kill our creatures by tapping it. And yeah, looks like they're probably going to do that, because they're not going to accept the block here. All of our creatures, well, I guess Snare Tactician doesn't die if they mutate one more time, but if they do, they mutate it, they have a massive blocker tap down Sergeant. Snare Tactician might be our best play, because if we just play Dranith Stinger or Wolverine, they're going to mutate one more time and then just kill whichever one of those I just played, which is better than them killing Sergeant. Yeah, I'm just going to play Snare Tactician here, because then we can also keep that thing tapped, so at least we can attack in against that. They can respond to us trying to tap it by tapping it themselves, but we can make sure they have to use that ability during their turn, so we can at least attack with whatever survives the Porky Parrot onslaught. Forbidden Friendship. Get a couple creatures out. I'll let them go for an attack here if they want to. Looks like they don't. So I'm not going to cycle Dranith Stinger. I think it's one of my better creatures if Porky Parrot's not going to be big enough to shoot things for 2 damage, which right now it can only shoot things for 1 still. Oh dear. We could pacify it, but now they have those 1/1s that they can block Snare Tactician with 2 of them and then shoot that for the final 1 damage, or block Sergeant with 1 of them and shoot it for the last damage. So the fact that Pacifism doesn't shut off the abilities is actually really bad here. We need like Rumbling Rock Slide to deal with that. I feel it still might be the best to try to get aggressive here. Probably not, though, because, like, what's the most aggressive we get? We pacify Porky Parrot, cycle a card to tap 1 of those down, and then we get to attack with Snare Tactician and deal 2 to them. Like, if we attack with Perimeter Sergeant, then they block with a 1/1 and tap for 1. So, yeah, no, we just can't. I think we play Spell Eater Wolverine here. Because that might actually attack in well. Although we do need to cast a lot of instants and sorceries before it will. We also just want to make our board wider here in general, if we can. I think the Porky Parrot lock might just be coming here. This may be the end to the Cycling Menace draft run. Primal Empathy, super sweet card. We use that to great effect in our last draft. That is a fantastic card. Now they get to essentially draw an additional card every turn if they have the biggest creature out, and if they don't, they get to make their creatures bigger until they do. So really, really solid card. I'm happy to take that. So might actually get something done here. So we only have to tap 1 of their creatures to be able to attack him with everybody, because they all have 2 toughness and their pinger is down. So I could just cycle Stinger right now, but I still don't really want to cycle Stinger. I kind of want to play it and then cycle Raking Claws. Yeah, that seems solid here, because now we also have double Raking Claws. By playing it first, we get some damage out of it too. We'd rather kill the non-human than kill the human if they're going to go for a chump block here, because the non-human can get mutated onto. So they probably have some sort of trick here, but against this Porky Parrot and the Primal Empathy to draw 2 cards a turn, we really, really cannot afford not to put pressure on our opponent. Because if this is a game where both of us sit here staring at each other, our opponent wins that handedly by drawing twice as many cards as us and pinging away our smaller creatures as soon as they mutate 1 more time. We've got to do everything in our power to keep pressure on our opponent. To the point where now I might even just pacify the Porky Parrot. Well, not if they keep attacking us with it. If they keep attacking us with it, I'll just keep taking damage. Do I want to tap down the 1/1? I don't think I want to tap down the 1/1 as much as I want to get a Day Squad Marshal out. Get more damage out here and then cycle multiple cards next turn. Potentially find a way to make lethal there. I mean, we have a way to give double strike, we have a way to shut off 1 blocker, and we still have a 1-mana cycler above all that. In addition to all that, we could find a way here, but we know they have Kahira in hand, so they can at least cast that, and with all of the cards they've drawn off the Primal Empathy, they probably have multiple plays here, either multiple blockers or multiple removal spells, or even like a Frostveil Ambush to tap things down. Ooh. Extinction Event for the 2-for-1 removal spell, kill Snare Tactician and Perimeter Sergeant, and now they have 2 blockers out as well. And Porky Parrot has Vigilance because of Kahira. If Porky Parrot didn't have Vigilance here, we could find lethal. Because they just hit us for 5, and then we shut off Kahira. We hit for 3, 4, 5, 6. We hit for more damage with Pacifism. Can we still find lethal? We can pacify Porky Parrot and then attack in with everybody. They block there, take 3. They go to 5 life. We can cycle 2 cards, which will do 2 more damage to them. We can put them to 3. I think that we I guess the vigilance means that this token's dying either way. We definitely have to just block with the 1/1 token. Because, yeah, they can tap it to do 1 damage to the human soldier at any point they want. So if the plan's to pacify the Porky Parrot, then, yeah, we have to make that block. Definitely can't lethal them immediately, but we can still put pressure on them, get them pretty low to where if they don't kill Janeth Stinger, we could hit some lucky draws. So we could just slam in with both here, and if they don't make a block, we just win. But I feel like they make a trade. Alright, and we can shut off the trade with Raking Claws. We can just kill their creature, have all of our stuff survive, and do 2 to them, put them to 6. Or we can Raking Claws on Janeth Stinger, put them to 4. Would we rather have multiple creatures out and an opponent at 6 life, or just 1 creature out with our opponent at 4? If we have 1 creature out and our opponent at 4, that also makes all of our cycling very active to killing them, because they're down to 4, so we don't have to cycle too many cards. I think I'd rather keep all my creatures out here. I mean, they've got 3 cards in hand, they're going to draw 2 more. I guess they are pretty likely to hit more creatures. But we could draw into like a Snare Tactician or something, then we can cast Snare Tactician and cycle a boon, because we do have 2 in the deck, I think. We've got Sabertooth, so we have more creatures to be dumping out here. Just kind of hoping they get some pretty unlucky draws here and just hit stone cold nothing. This has been a difficult game for sure. We'll see how it ends. Ooh, that's just gonna demolish us here. Because they gain 2 life off of it, we have to sacrifice a creature, and Porky Parrot's big enough to kill Janeth Stinger before it resolves, so they just kill all our creatures. Nope. No way out to that one then, unless we had found a way to put enough pressure on them to kill them immediately. Because if we just did the play where we hit them down to 4, we still lose all our creatures here, and now they're at 6. So either play, we're pretty out of luck here. I got 3, we have 3 cycling cards in grave, so we could try to make it to a Zenith Flare. That's 4 cycling cards in grave. Can play a Spell Eater Wolverine, but they can kill it with the Chittering Harvester, because it can tap to do 2 damage now. So playing in creatures here is pointless. I guess it stops them from hitting our face. Unpredictable Cyclone, does that do anything for us? We still need 1 more mana for that. We're not going to be able to do anything fast enough with that. I think we'd rather cycle it and get closer to a Zenith Flare here, honestly. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we would have 6 cards in grave now. We only need 8 to Zenith Flare for lethal, so I actually think I just cycle Unpredictable Cyclone. Because in order for Cyclone to do something, we have to draw another land next turn, then cast it, then draw stuff with cycling. So it's going to be 3 turns before we do anything with Cyclone. I think that's too long at this board state. But it's also going to be like 3 turns till we kill them with Zenith Flare. I don't know. I'm going to drop out the Sabertooth so we don't take 2 damage to the face here, so we slow down their clock. We're on a 4-turn clock if they just shoot us every time. There's no way any of our creatures are staying on this board, regardless, because if they draw any more mutate cards, if they are drawing 2 a turn, they just make us sacrifice a creature. They can tap that to shoot our creatures. So, may as well use it as bait to potentially gain us a couple life. I guess this is a game, oh dear. This is a game that, like, looking back on it, We might have been able to put enough pressure on them to win if we had just bitten the bullet and cast Pacifism on Porky Parrot as soon as I considered it. I was so set on the fact that it doesn't stop Porky Parrot's ability. Whereas it was like, we just needed to slam into them as much as possible if the ability was going to be going off all the time anyway. Either way, just shut off the attacker as soon as possible. Yeah, now they're just at 1,000,000 and discarding all our cards. Definitely no outs here. Unless they try to shoot Stormwild Caprador for damage. Yeah, no, they're just going to shoot us twice. Fair enough. And that will end today's quick draft of the Ikoria format. Doing a bit of a rough cycling deck there, definitely a pretty mediocre one. But we did get the Zenithler, some Snarecasters and stuff, and when you draw those cards and you draw them in the right sequence, you can do some pretty busted things, as we saw in the games that we won there. So 5-3, not bad at all. Pretty good record with Ikoria all around, and we do have a random Mastery Pass level and a random Ikoria prize pack to open up at the end here. So Karuga, the Macro Sage, is the rare that we opened. I do really like drafting around the companion restrictions, so if I do another one of these drafts, would really like to open up a Karuga or something like that, and try to do a companion deck ourselves. That can definitely be a lot of fun. And for the Strixhaven pack, we get a Brainstorm and a Mythic Rare Wildcard. Really nice pack there. So that will end today's video. If you enjoyed this draft, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Do all of those things to let the YouTube algorithm know that you're interested in the content and want to see more of it. And as always, to everybody who's watched the drafts and all the videos in general and stuck around to the end of this video, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.